Able to seal him. Here's the pass. Oh, what a catch! Leaping into the air and pulling it down is T. Higgins. Burrow facing pressure. Goes over the top. Wide open is Chase. And he splits the defenders for the touchdown. That's live. Back the other way, Sam Hubbard. The Cincinnati Kid. Hubbard's got a convoy. Chased by Andrews. At the 30, the 20, he will score!
Fans, he is Mon. I am Jake. This is the Bengals Pulse, the heartbeat of our Cincinnati Bengals. How is everybody doing tonight? We're very excited that you guys are joining us. Mon, I am coming live from Universal Studios in Orlando, Florida, here with a little staycation with the family for a couple days. So we are enjoying ourselves, hitting up the Universal parks. How are you doing, man? How's your week going?
Good. Great Christmas. All the kids were in town. Had a great time, and it's Christmas. It was fun. I had to work yesterday, the day after Christmas, but I'm off for the next two, and I'm excited about this weekend. This is my Super Bowl, the Chiefs. Looking forward to it. Can't wait, and let's talk about it.
Game. Well, your son. This has been the talk of the Cincinnati pod. One of your sons got you that awesome Bengals Pulse light in the background there. As soon as I saw it, I said, you're gonna have to have Luke send me the info over. That is sweet, dude. I mean, it is perfect backdrop. It's very bright, very, I don't know, man. It's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, Luke and his wonderful girlfriend Amanda had that made for me, and I love it. I was so like, wow. And I'm looking forward to. I'm going to reposition it. Not now. I'm going to wait for the season, and I'm going to redo my little man cave, and I plan on working on that when the season ends. And yeah, it's beautiful. I love it, and it changes colors, but we're keeping it orange right now. And also, I'm very happy. Look at this. My wife made this for me. Look how beautiful that is. She made it a painting,
Awesome.
and that is. I need to find a place for this too. But so it was a great Christmas. A lot of Bengal stuff. And maybe when the season ends, we'll show everything we got for Christmas.
I got a Sam Hubbard jersey, a Logan Wilson jersey, some Jamar Chase socks, some Joe Burrow socks. So yeah, it was a good. That sign just pops, dude. I mean, it absolutely pops. Guys, unfortunately, I'm on my phone, so I cannot see the comments tonight. But make sure you comment in there. Let us know what Bengal gear you guys got for Christmas. I know all of us, that's probably what the majority of us ask for anyways. Yeah, it was a very good Christmas. Hopefully everybody had a great Christmas. Hopefully the Steeler game didn't ruin too many Christmases. It almost ruined mine, Mom, but I'm not going to let it. I'm not going to let it, Mom, because there's still a chance. There's still a chance in the immortal words of Jim Carrey. There is still a chance. And a lot does, when you look at this past weekend, Mom, before we talk about this Bengals, oh, here we go. Thank you, Eric. So you're saying there's a chance. I love that from Cincy Shirts. So, Mom, this past weekend, besides the Buffalo Bills winning their football game, everything that had to happen in the Bengals' favor happened, which is incredible. I mean, you saw the Indianapolis Colts get destroyed by the Atlanta Falcons. Some crazy games. The Denver Broncos, they come all the way back against New England, and then they lose in overtime. And now Russell Wilson done for the season. He's being benched, which is a crazy story in itself. But everything is lining up to give the Bengals still an incredible opportunity to make the dance. It's amazing, Mon, isn't it? It's amazing how quickly you go from to, oh man, we're still in this thing.
Yes, painful as Saturday was, and it was very painful. What happened Sunday numbed the pain quite a bit. Seeing all those teams that we needed to lose. We're pretty much where we were before last week. We take care of business Sunday and win out. Take care and beat the Browns at Cincinnati. 93% chance of making it. I like those chances. And one week at a time. Let's get ready for this wounded Chiefs team because they are in turmoil. They really are. They're struggling right now,
It's
and
crazy,
they're going to be
right?
fired up. They're going to be fired up.
It's crazy. You think about, at least I do. I think about not having Joe Burrow and where we are right now, and I look at teams like the Kansas City Chiefs that still have their elite player, their best player, and we're only one game behind them. It's incredible the way this season has flipped upside down. It's almost painful in a way, right, Mon? Because you think about, man, if the Bengals were to have stayed healthy, where would we be right now? I mean, it's really it's hard to imagine, but the Bengals probably are playing for the number one seed right now if everything's healthy. I know it's hard to say that, but when you look at the fact that we're right in the mix with a backup quarterback for the last 5.5 weeks, that half obviously being the half of the Ravens game that Joe Burrow missed, 5.5 games Joe Burrow has missed, and the Bengals are right in this thing. It really is remarkable.
Jake, we've watched football for years, but has there been a crazier NFL season? It seems like every week there's a flavor of the week. It was the Philadelphia Eagles, unstoppable, Super Bowl, here we come. Then they've lost two or three out of four. Then you had the 49ers three-game losing streak, and all of a sudden they win four or five in a row, and everybody, they're shoe-ins. They get humbled against the Ravens the other night. Cincinnati won four out of five. Everybody was talking about the Bengals, best team in the AFC, and then Joe Burrow gets hurt, and then things go out of whack. It's truly a week to week league. It really, really is, and it's fun, but at the same time, it could drive you a little batty because what a wave of emotions every week. But hey, for
And
the Bengals, go ahead.
I was just going to say, don't forget about the Cowboys, right? They're up and down. They were talked about as the best team in the NFL at one point. Dak Prescott was the MVP candidate, the number one leading guy. They have looked terrible the last couple weeks. You talked about the Buffalo Bills. They have rejuvenated their season. Uh, it's just been crazy. It's the Miami Dolphins even started off so incredibly hot, and they have kind of smoldered out. It's insane the way this NFL season has gone. And one thing I think that gets missed in all of this in this Bengal season, and I was thinking about this the other day. When I go back and look at it, Mon, we're 8-7. In those 8 wins, 7 of those wins have come against teams right now that are either 500 or better. That's impressive. I mean, the Bengals' schedule was ridiculous this year. The hardest in the NFL. From start to finish, it's going to end up being the hardest schedule played in the NFL. And with 2 games left, with a backup quarterback the last 5.5 games, the Cincinnati Bengals are playing meaningful football. It's very remarkable. Really, I mean, I know we are. I feel like we're spoiled these last couple years, but I think whatever happens this season, when we go back and look and reflect on the season, it's really remarkable what the Bengals have done.
Yeah, it is. And that's a very good point about all the wins that we've had. But just to counter it a little bit, back to my point about how crazy this football season is, quality wins against the Bills, quality wins against the 49ers, beating them by 14 points out in San Francisco. Huge win. Winning on Monday Night Football against a very hot team, the Jacksonville Jaguars at that time. But we have three horrible losses also. We have three losses by over 21
I know.
points.
I know
And
it's
you sit there
crazy.
and you're like, what's going on here? It's just such a It's a maddening season. It really is. And, Vanguard is mentioning, we need to just, when we play outside the division, we dominate these teams. We match up well against them. And you know what? We just need to take that intensity and start playing that way in the AFC North. But listen, it's we can debate our issues in the AFC North during the offseason. We got a lot to play for. Let's get these next two games. We'll get the double-digit wins. Let's get in the playoffs. Everybody's 0-0 in the playoffs. Everybody is even. Let's just get there.
Need is a place at the table, right? I mean, that's all you need is a place at the table to get the opportunity. Because, like you said, once it all starts over, everybody's 0-0. I tell you, there is, and listen too. Yeah, Eric is putting on here. Don't forget to vote for Ted Karras for Walter Payton Man of the Year. Absolutely. You have Ted Karras in the running for that. Listen, Mon, right now, Trey Hendrickson at 16 sacks is only one behind the leader in the NFL. I mean, this team has had some incredible things happen this year. Listen, I was looking at a stat today. Cam Taylor-Britt right now is tied for like fourth or fifth in the NFL with interceptions. He's missed the last 4 games, Mon. The leader has 8. Cam Taylor-Britt has 4, and he's missed the last 4 games. He has played at an all-pro level this year. These are just things, again, we'll talk about them in the offseason, but I just think there's a lot of incredible things that has happened this season that I just don't want to get overlooked. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear you. The Trey Hendrickson, I mentioned this on Twitter the other day. Somebody put the little graphic up. Yeah, TJ Watt's a fine football player, but he has Highsmith on the other side. Teams are worried about him also. Trey Hendrickson, not a knock on the Bengals defensive line. I love our starters, but he's really truly been our only consistent pass rush threat. Hubbard
Without a
does
doubt.
well. Hubbard has his moments. Reader is not known as a sack artist. BJ Hill run stuff for really good against the run. But Trey Hendrickson is really the only thing we have. And for him to have 16 sacks, it shows you how dominant he is. And I can think of right now 3 sacks that were called back. Right?
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
The guy could easily have 18 or 19 right now. I'm glad we have him. And again, that 1-year extension is a brilliant move by the Cincinnati Bengals. And I'm glad he's going to be on the team for another 2 years.
Well, I mean, really, you and I kind of talked about that after the game, too. The pass rush this season has just been non-existent. I mean, you look at a guy like Joseph Asai, who at one point, I think you and I both talked about how Joseph Asai was going to have this incredible year. I mean, he was one of our best pass rushers. He was right up there with pressures with Trey Hendrickson in the playoffs last year. I mean, he looked incredible. And I know he had to play against the Chiefs, but that is what it is. I mean, that play didn't lose us the game. That punt alone was terrible. So, but Joseph Asai has done nothing this year. I mean, Trey Hendrickson on his own has wreaked havoc. And it's incredible to think what he has done on his own. And you said it perfectly. I mean, with Watt having guys around him that also can get to the quarterback, the Bengals pass rush has really just been non-existent besides Trey Hendrickson.
Yeah, they're going to, again, a lot of offseason talk that's going to be coming up in the next few weeks. The Bengals are going to address that in free agency and in the draft. It's not sustainable. Trey Hendrickson with a really solid pass rusher. Maybe Miles Murphy's that guy, but I think we really need somebody on the interior. Somebody like, remember Larry Ogunjobi? We talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
Him and BJ Hill had 15 sacks, 14 and a half sacks that Super Bowl season. God, I would love to get that amount from the interior next year. But hopefully they'll rectify that. The Bengals have a lot of great they have a good roster, a lot of key pieces in place for years. Still got to add quite a few, and it's going to be very eventful this offseason.
To talk about. But before we get to that, Mon, there's still a chance. There's still a chance this season is not over and won't be over here in a couple weeks. Before we get to the Bengals Chiefs, though, let's go ahead and pick. Let's make our picks for the AFC North. It's not. I know every once in a while you throw in a win here and there. Um, Me, on the other hand, I just can't do it. But I try to talk it into existence more than anything. Jets at Browns. Again, a Jets team that has really just been a week to week team. It's been one of those teams they look like they're playing a different sport, and then the next week they come out and they win by 20. It's just been one of those crazy seasons. But Jets at Browns, this one is going to be tough, right? This is going to be a tough one for the Jets to come out and win. What do you think, Mon? Jets at Browns.
I think it's going to be the Browns. The Browns have a really solid defense. They've carried them the whole year. Flacco has really flashed and surprised. You got hats off to him. He's been the best Browns quarterback this year in the last 10 years. He's looked really good. It's not going to be close. I think the Browns are going to win this game 28-10. And they could very easily be resting starters the final week of the season against the Bengals. Of course, depending a little bit, they have an outside shot of potentially winning the North if the Ravens lose their next two, which I don't see happening. But I'm going to have the Browns winning 28-10.
Unfortunately, I'm going to go with you. I'll take the under. I'll say Browns win 24-13. Unfortunately, I just don't think the Jets are going to be able to go in there. No matter if I pick them or not, the Jets are not going to be able to go in and beat Cleveland in Cleveland right now. All right, so we both have the Browns. Steelers at Seahawks. Mon, the Steelers team last week again that looked like a totally different team than they had the previous 3 weeks against us. But going out to Seattle is tough. And playing a Seahawks team that this is a must win for the Seahawks as well as the Steelers. But to go out to Seattle and win is a tough task. We saw that with Cleveland trying to go out and win and getting beat out in Seattle earlier. So Steelers at Seahawks, Mon, who do you have?
It's not going to be close. The Seahawks are going to win this game. They need to win it 24-10. The Steelers are going to revert back to the offense, because they're not playing the Bengals. They're going to revert back to that horrible offense. Seattle's going to win this. They're going to win this game and pretty much eliminate the Steelers from the playoffs.
I think the Seahawks win this game by 20 points or more because the Steelers aren't playing us. I mean, it's sad to say that, but that's the fact of the matter. I think the Seahawks win. I'll say 31-10. I'll take the over. 31-10. Seahawks absolutely bring the Steelers back down to earth. Dolphins at Ravens. This is going to be a tough game. And for the Bengals, it really could work out both ways, to be honest with you. So let's go with Dolphins at Ravens. Mon, who do you got in this one?
This pretty much assures that the Dolphins have to play hard the next 2 weeks. If they win, they're going to have to play hard to beat the Bills because they want to maintain that number one seed. I'm going to have the Ravens here. The Ravens are going to have a little bit of a letdown. They played this great Monday night game against one of the best teams in football and beat them handily. They're going to come back. I expect a little bit of a drop off, but the Dolphins playing in cooler weather in Baltimore, I think that's going to be the deciding factor. I got Baltimore winning this game. I'm going to say 24-20. I think, they're just going to be the better team. I think the home field advantage, solidifies that victory for them. As much as it pains me to say this, the Ravens have a hell of a football team. They really do. I salute them. I'm not a fan. I can't personally stand that organization, but they're a good football team. And I think they're going to win 23-20.
I agree with you. I think the Miami Dolphins win this football game. I think the Ravens, I think they put a lot into that 49ers game, and I don't see them doing it 2 weeks in a row. I think the Dolphins go into Baltimore and they win 28-24. And it sets up a very interesting week 18 because that means both of the teams, the Ravens and the Dolphins, have to play for meaningful football. They have to play for something. And that's what we want as Bengal fans. We want both of these teams playing hard in week 18 because we need the Dolphins to beat the Bills. So I'm going to say the Dolphins go in, beat the Ravens 28-24. All right. All right. So let's talk about this Bengals Chiefs matchup. Mon, a game that we had circled when the schedule came out as being the possible battle for the number one seed. And now we are sitting at a situation where both teams are reeling for one instance or another. The Bengals obviously losing Joe Burrow has derailed the season a little bit. The Chiefs right now just look awful on offense. So really now we find ourselves this game being not being for the number one seed, but being for a spot in the playoffs, which I don't think anybody would have thought when the season started. These two teams were the best teams in the AFC the last couple years. And now with the Bengals losing Joe Burrow and the Chiefs, again, just kind of unraveling at the seams, uh, this game has now become a must-win for both teams. Let's talk about, Mon, let's talk about this game and the matchups in this game. Let's start with the Chiefs offense. An offense led by Patrick Mahomes that has struggled, to say the least. An offense where last week against I almost call them the Oakland Raiders, the Las Vegas Raiders go out and they throw for 62 yards in the first quarter, don't complete another pass the rest of the game, and beat Kansas City in Kansas City. I mean, that is just crazy. That's unheard of. But this Chiefs offense cannot put it together right now. I mean, they look like they're just drawing stuff up in the sand. So, what do you think, Mon, about this Chiefs matchup, this Chiefs offense against this Bengals defense that has given up a lot of big explosive plays that could be getting Cam Taylor-Britt back, their best corner, which would obviously be a huge impact on this game if Cam Taylor-Britt can play. But what do you think about this Chiefs offense versus Bengals defense?
Yeah, watching the Chiefs last week was enjoyable. I don't think I can't remember the last time I've seen a Kansas City Pat Mahomes led team, Kansas City Chiefs, struggle the way they did. They looked absolutely just out of whack, and that offensive line, which is one of the best in football, at least the interior is, was getting dominated by the Raiders. Those tackles they have are just a big drop off from Orlando Brown. Huge drop off. I don't care what any Chief fan says. There's no doubt
Huge,
about it. That they are
huge.
struggling mightily there. Trey Henderson should be able to eat. Hopefully, Sam Hubbard gets a couple of pressures, maybe a sack or two there. They're in turmoil. Pat Mahomes is still, an elite quarterback, MVP, a two-time Super Bowl champion. Travis Kelce's a Hall of Famer. Mahomes is going to be a Hall of Famer. Pacheco is a good running back. I don't think he's going to play. He runs violently. He was not playing. He didn't practice today, I don't think. But they are going to want to rebound. They're fired up. Cincinnati's defense is going to have to be ready. They have to play better than they did last week. Just to harp back on last week's game a little bit, the defense, 3 explosive plays, all of them to number 14 for the Steelers. If you take those away, if you tackle them, our defense really wasn't that bad. Pittsburgh only had 3.6 yards per average, under 4 yards per average. They did get some tough rushing yards. We just can't let Kansas City control the clock. We got to make sure the running backs that do play, we contain them. We got to contain their tight ends. Kelsey and the other guy, his name Watson, I believe. Mahomes goes to them quite a bit. Of course, the Bengals are known not to be able to cover tight ends. Defense has got to step up and make sure Kelsey is covered. And I like our chances. Kansas City, to me, is in turmoil. Their team chemistry is off. And I could see them frustrated trying to reach and make plays. Our defense could potentially get a couple turnovers. It's going to be fun to watch. I like our chances. Because I think our defense is going to be fired up to try to rebound after last week's loss.
everybody that is joining us live. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Again, I can't see all the comments. I'm on my phone right now for you ones just tuning in. But thank you guys again for tuning in to the Bengals Pulse and sitting here with Mon and I and talking a little Bengals football. I agree, Mon. I do think this offense, I think it's been in turmoil all year. I mean, the Kansas City Chiefs wide receivers, Mon, have dropped more passes than any group of wide receivers in the NFL. So you have all the drop passes. You have uh, you have Taylor Swift and Travis Kelsey's mom
I knew that
crying.
was coming.
Oh, crying! I mean, that's just one of the greatest. That's one of the glorious things I've seen all year. Crying up in the box. I mean, you have this Travis Kelsey coming off the field on fourth down, throwing his helmet, acting like a complete clown and a jackass that he is. This team is they are in turmoil, and the Bengals have got to capitalize on it. This is not one of those things, Mon, where where we as fans need to worry about, oh, the Chiefs are going to come out fired up. And no, the Bengals have got to be good enough to take advantage of teams that are reeling. We didn't do it last week in Pittsburgh. We didn't come out we didn't come out and take advantage of a very bad Pittsburgh team that had been reeling on offense. No, we came out and let them dictate the game to us. We cannot let the Kansas City offense do the same thing to us this week. This is a team that is down right now, and the Bengals have got to put their foot on the throat of this Kansas City offense and smother it. That's what they have to do in order to win this football game. The defense is going to have to make plays because this Kansas City defense, Mon, is pretty good. This is a tough Kansas City defense that has really kept their head afloat all season. Again, obviously, Chris Jones in the middle is the Bengal killer. He's a guy that is just destroyed Bengal offenses the last couple years single handedly, kind of like an Aaron Donald did in the Super Bowl. But this Chiefs defense is put together well. Now, Snead, one of their best defensive back, he's banged up right now. He did not practice today, along with a couple other starters. I think 4 or 5 of the Chief starters did not practice today. They're pretty beat up. But this Bengals offense has got to go out and play well. There's the right there, Mon, is the injury report. You can see you got Snead. Watson didn't practice. Snead didn't practice. And then obviously Donovan Smith, who is their starting offensive tackle, Kadarius Toney, and Isaiah Pacheco all did not practice today. So this Chiefs team is beat up, but this defense is good, and this Bengals offense is going to have to come out and run the football. Mon, again, the Las Vegas Raiders with two backup running backs dominated the line of scrimmage against against this Chiefs team, last week. There's no reason why the Bengals should not come out and run the ball 40 times on Sunday.
We can't play from behind. We saw what happened last week with the 3 interceptions from Jake Browning. It's not fair to put him in that position. Kansas City's defense is very formidable. They got great guys, Chris Jones, we know that, Karlaftis. They got good linebackers. Their defensive backfield is really good. We have to be careful. But I just want to tell you how dominant that Raider defense was last week. I've watched a lot of Kansas City Chief games. I can't remember the last time that Mahomes was running for his life and hit as many times as he was last week. If there's going to be a time that you blitz a little bit more against Kansas City, it might be this week. The weapons that Mahomes has, a little limited on the outside. So maybe Lou Anarumo is going to dial up a little bit more pressure to help Trey Hendrickson out. Yeah, listen, Kansas City last week, they were doing a good job stopping the run. The Raiders were only getting 1-2 yards a pop, and then they kept on running. They didn't give up. Zim brought this up on Spaces and in Twitter. They didn't give up. And guess what happened in the fourth quarter, Jake? They started getting 5-yard runs, 6-yard runs, 15-yard runs. The dam broke. They kept on running. They kept on running. They kept on running. And then finally they started popping these nice runs. That's what I want the Bengals to do. Play good, solid defense. Let's stay out of 3rd and 10, 3rd and 15. Let's run the ball. Let's run the ball. Let's set up Jake Browning to succeed, and let's keep Mahomes frustrated. Keep pressuring him. That Raider defense won that game. They absolutely won that
Oh
game
yeah.
last week.
Well,
And
Max
we just,
Crosby, Max Crosby dominated, and that's
yes.
what we need from Trey Hendrickson. We need that kind of disruptive game from Trey Hendrickson. What Max Crosby did for the Raiders, I think, Mon, you were talking about that. I think the last time I saw a Raiders offense a Chiefs offense look that bad is when they played Tampa Bay in the Super Bowl, right? A couple
Yeah.
years ago, when that Buccaneers defense just smothered Patrick Mahomes and made him look average at best. Go ahead, Mom. What were you going to say?
I got the Kansas City team stats here real quick. This is pretty shocking. This is Patrick Mahomes, Hall of Famer. Points scored, they're 28th in the NFL, and points scored at 22 points a game. Points allowed, they're ninth. They're only allowing 17 points a game, so their defense is formidable. Total offense, the Kansas City Chiefs are 27th in the NFL at 355 yards a game. They're 16th in rushing, and they're 28th in passing. One more time. The Kansas City Chiefs are 28th in passing. Guys, we have got to come out and play good defense. Our defensive backs had Dax Hill, DJ Turner. You guys got to step up and play, because what I just read, we have a solid opportunity here, and we got to take advantage of it.
I mean, Dax Hill has not played well, Mon. He really hasn't. DJ Turner he has he has showed signs that he could be that other starting corner on the boundary, but man, even DJ Turner, you look at some of the missed opportunities he had last week against the Steelers, but Dax Hill hasn't played well either. Mon Patrick Mahomes has thrown 14 or 15 interceptions. I think it's the most he's thrown in a season in his career this year, and there's still 2 games left. This is a Patrick Mahomes that looks average right now. He does not look very good, and the Bengals have got to take this is what I'm talking about. Like I said in the beginning of the show, Mon, the Bengals have got to come out and take advantage of this Kansas City Chiefs team that is just reeling. Mon, do you know if the Kansas City Chiefs lose their next 2 and the Raiders win their next 2, the Raiders can win that division? That's
That's
insane.
that's
That's
crazy.
that's crazy, Mon. It is
Yeah.
crazy, but it can happen. And again, the Bengals have got to take the opportunity to do this. No excuses, Kansas City. You're not missing Joe Burrow. You have Patrick Mahomes. And again, only being 1 game ahead of us is just doesn't say a lot for this Chiefs team. And this Bengals team has got to take advantage of this opportunity. Again, this is a must win for the Cincinnati Bengals, Mon, and it's right there for the taking.
It's all about the trenches. I know we sound like a broken record on the Bengals Pulse. Chris Jones, that defensive line for the Chiefs, they played a good game last week. The Raiders, if it wasn't for their defense, they wouldn't have won that game. We know Karras, Kappa, they all got to step up. We had an off week last week, and when that usually happens, Cincinnati always rebounds and it has a good follow up game, and I expect that to happen this year. That defensive line has to step up. I know Pacheco might not play, but I fully expect Kansas City to run the ball 25, 30 times. They don't give up. They're going to run the ball. If they establish the run game, we're in trouble. We're in trouble. Can't have that, and we can't play catch up football. We need to get ahead of these guys. We need to score first, because I think Jake Browning, any quarterback is, but Jake Browning especially needs to play with the lead. And we'll see how it goes. I feel really good about it. I feel really, really positive about this. Kansas City is going to be in a mini rebuild next year. And I don't mean that in like they're not going to be competing, but I can see a lot of new faces in Kansas City next year.
As bad as Lou Anarumo's defense has played this year at times, Lou Anarumo has done very well dialing up defenses to handle this Kansas City offense, and hopefully we see the same thing. I agree with you, Mon. I think this Bengals defense was embarrassed last week. I know I was embarrassed as a fan. I'm sure the players were embarrassed by the way they played. I see this defense playing a lot better this week, and getting Cam Taylor-Britt back, who did practice today, Mon. Actually, Jamar Chase, the only Bengal that did not practice today, and but Jamar was on the rehab field, which is a good sign that he possibly could be playing on Sunday as well. This Bengals team, knock on wood, could have their full allotment of guys come Sunday.
Yeah, I hope so. It would be great to have Chase. Hopefully, he practices tomorrow. I just want to see Joe Mixon and Chase Brown and Travion total for about 170 yards.
Yeah.
170 yards on the ground. And Jake Browning, 15 of 20. He doesn't have to throw it a lot for about 220 yards, and we win the game.
D. Ryan ran against them last year in that first meeting. I mean, it was dominating. Our offensive line dominated the trenches, like you said. Well, let's get to it, Mon. Bengals at Chiefs. Who you got?
Yeah, it's going to be a tough game. Playing in Kansas City, they're fired up. They were embarrassed last week. I think Cincinnati, Lou Anarumo, they know this team. I know they're not in the AFC North, but we played the Chiefs so much the last couple of years. We play them again next year in Kansas City. They're almost like a regular opponent now. Lou Anarumo is going to be ready for it. I expect it to be a mini shootout. I think Cincinnati is going to win this game. I'm going to have it 24-20. Cincinnati wins this game. Hard fought win for the Bengals on the Cincinnati to play Cleveland, and let's get in the playoffs.
27-24 Cincinnati on a last-second Money Mac field goal, and the Bengals are playing the Cleveland Browns to get into the playoffs the following week. All right, guys, that is another edition of the Bengals Pulse. If you like this podcast, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to this podcast. Make sure you check us out on all the awesome podcast platforms, Apple, Stitcher, and Spotify. As always, if you like this podcast, make sure you give Mon and I that 5-star review. We very much appreciate that. As always, follow Mon on Twitter at TheFireMon. Follow me on Twitter at CoachJakeOwens9. Follow Eric on Twitter at eFlash with 2 H's, 88. Follow the Cincinnati Podcast Network on Twitter at CincinnatiPod. And follow the Bengals Pulse on Twitter always at Bengals_Pulse9 on Instagram, the same without the ad. Bengals_Pulse9. And as always, check out all the awesome podcasts right here on the Cincinnati Podcast Network. Make sure you go out and vote for Ted Karras for Man of the Year. He definitely deserves it. There's the balloons, Mon. He is Mon. I am Jake. This is the Bengals Pulse. Hoo-day, Bengal fans. We will see you next
See you guys.
week.